And one of the things you could do is you could start by drawing a picture here. Now, when we ask for trig functions, we give you theta. Theta is always our angle, and it's a right triangle. Now, they tell us the cosine ratio. So if you think of SOHCAHTOA, we already have cosine. And cosine is the ratio of adjacent over hypotenuse. So then they give us the adjacent side, which is 7. They give us the hypotenuse side, which is the square root of 130. And you will have to do Pythagorean Theorem to find the missing side value. All right, so if we do Pythagorean Theorem to find this missing side length, I'm just going to call it b, you can go ahead and set up your work. You don't have to actually show any of this work. If you can do this part in your calculator, go right ahead, because this is something that is what we call a prerequisite skill. And then if you take the square root of 81, you should find out the missing side length here is 9. So this is the triangle that we need to set up, and it's the piece that we will be doing a ton of this today. So this skill you definitely have to have down right here. Can you find a missing side length and then identify if my angle is theta, which side each piece belongs to, right? We have the adjacent, the opposite, and the hypotenuse. And once you have that set up, then you can use SOHCAHTOA and you can find any of the missing pieces that we need. So I'll give you a little hint. We're only going to be using sine, cosine, and tangent today. However, you should still be comfortable with finding any of the remaining trig functions that we have. So let's look about sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. The opposite is 9. The hypotenuse is square root of 130. Now we could actually rationalize this, but I'm not going to yet because we're going to need it to take the reciprocal. But hopefully if you see sine, then you know the reciprocal of sine is cosecant, and you automatically have that one set up. And then we can do the same thing with cosine. Now cosine was the one that was given, and then its reciprocal is secant. And then the last one is tangent, which is opposite over adjacent. 9 over 7, 9. So that doesn't really reduce. Make that look a little better. And there you go. We now have all 6 trig functions, and you should just be able to be comfortable with finding, if I give you the cosine value, you can find any of the other ones. So that is a very big skill of what we're doing today. And you need to be really comfortable with finding the missing side length using Pythagorean Theorem, and then finding the any of the 6 trig functions. But to be honest, we're really just going to be finding sine, cosine, and tangent. Now I'll say this, I'm not 100% sure if I got to look a little bit more at the delta math problems, but let's say I have the sine value, which is 9 over square root of 130. If you type this into delta math and it doesn't work, it tells you it's wrong, then what they're going to ask you to do is rationalize the denominator, just like we did going all the way back to geometry, really. So this would turn into 9 over 130, and then the square root of 130 would be up top, and then I would just check to see if the 9 divided by 130 can be reduced. So this fraction right here cannot be reduced, so my final answer would be written like that. And that's probably the preferred way to write the ratio of sine. However, delta math should give you credit for either way. Just know that if you If you type it in with this original way and it doesn't work, then try to reduce the radical and type it as that form and it should work. Okay, so we have to talk about a couple of things. The first one is delta math. What I'd like you guys to do right now, I'm going to model this, but I want you to, when you go into your delta math account, you're going to have to sign up for a new account. And let's see, I'm going to sign in as if I was a student. I created a student account here. Let's see if that works. Okay, so here's what it looks like for you. When you log into Delta Math, you got to go to Tools and then Manage, Login, and Courses. So once you do that, it'll bring you to a page that looks like this. And it has your personal login information. That won't change, but the teacher class info will. And you just need to select Edit, and then there's a drop-down menu, and you'll have to select the third hour, third trimester. Please make sure it says third trimester, and then you'll be able to gain access to this new course for this trimester. If there's anything else clicked, unclick it, because you only want the third hour, third trimester. So why don't you take a minute right now to do that? Go to Delta Math, open it up, select Tools, and then Manage, Login, and Courses. It should take probably 30 seconds. That work out? Sweet. Okay, and then remember it's the teacher class info that you're going to edit. If you, for some reason, do not have my login, let me see if I hit cancel here. My teacher code, I think, is 4165, I believe. No, I got to log back in. I'll find it. I don't have that memorized. Anyways, there is a video on this. If you happen to miss it, there's a video on our Schoology page that has me walk through all this. Oh, there it is. There's my teacher code if you need it. So 416534. So if you need the teacher code you shouldn't, but if you do, it's there. Okay, I'm going to assume that you guys were able to do that. If not, we can talk about it later. But that's the only way you're going to gain the new access to this trimester homework, is to sign up for the new third trimester one. Okay, so we need to have a little chat just about some new changes or some pieces for third trimester that I want everybody to be aware of. And the first thing is attendance. Everyone must meet on Zoom unless you get an email stating otherwise. And I say that because at some point my wife is going to have our child. She is currently 4 or 5 days past her due date, so it could happen any minute. And there's a chance that she could call and I got to leave right away. So if that's the case, I will let you guys know what to do, and there will be a video link posted, and you'll just watch the video and then do the homework. But if you get an email saying that we have a sub today, then you'll just have to follow the directions. So please just monitor your email as you go along. I do want you to know, and this is including today, that if you do not show up to Zoom, if you're absent from Zoom, or you leave halfway through, or you're not here for the full time, then emails will be sent home if a student is absent, and I'll contact parents and I'll copy you on the email just so there's constant communication between that. The biggest piece we need to talk about, and this was very apparent with the last test that we took, is I started to realize that I think students are making use of PhotoMath or other math solving software on our tests. and it was very apparent with some of the work that was shown. So because of this, we are making some changes that could directly affect how you are scored in this class. If there is evidence of using such technology on tests and quizzes, which, by the way, I have access to that technology too, and a lot of times if something doesn't make sense, I'll cross-reference it and see where your work came from. And I'm somewhat able to tell who's making use of these technologies. So you're only cheating yourself if you're using some type of software to help you out. But any evidence of using technology will be reported to admin and parents. And if it happens more than a couple times, that could result in removal from the class, which will also be on your permanent record. So what is a new change? When we do tests and quizzes, we are requiring full written out work for all assessments on all problems. And now 50% of the points will be for the correct work shown, and that work will be graded. So that means that if you do a problem and you type it in and you get it correct, cool. You basically get 50% worth of the points on that. If you get it wrong, you can still earn credit by showing the correct work, but now I'm going to go through and grade every single problem on every single test and quiz, and I'm looking at the work, and if that work does not match up with the work that we've learned, and the reason why I say that is some people were showing methods that we have not learned before in Precalculus. And unless you can tell me otherwise how and why you learned that method the way you did, some people were using calculus materials that we haven't learned yet and solving these problems, or the notation on the problems were written in such a way that it's very clear that that work was not student created. So I want you to know that we are aware that the academic integrity is being it's not being honored. So we're going to make things a little more full. I don't know how to say that. We're going to make you guys more responsible, and I'm grading all of your work for every quiz and every test now. And then the other piece is homework will be on Delta Math unless we have a project or anything else that comes up, and in that case, I'll let you know. So those are the new changes. Please make sure you understand them and are aware of them and are comfortable with them and following them. Okay, so what do we got today? We are going to start 5.3 and 5.4, and to be honest, this is just kind of a way to use angle formulas with sine, cosine, and tangent. And I'm going to send you a link in a video, and we're actually going to do a little bit different today. We're going to watch a video that's about 25 minutes long, and then we'll come back at about, it'll probably be just 11:50, and then we're going to come back and do a couple examples in class, and then the homework is Delta Math. So right now I'm going to send you a link to a video, and I want you to watch that. It's Miss Dwyer teaching this. She does a wonderful job of teaching the process. I don't think you need to take notes on this, and the reason why is that I'm going to go through 3 examples in class, and those will be our notes for today. I also am going to send you a link of the formula sheet that you could keep, so that will kind of get you all the notes that you need, so you don't have to go back through and rewrite those. But go ahead and watch the video. My recommendation would be watch it on a little faster speed. So you could watch it like on a 1.5 speed and it won't take as long. But we'll come back at 11:55. All right, so go ahead. This time is yours. Do you want to, are you on Zoom at all or you're not? Okay. I'll put it up here, and then you can just watch it there.
Oh, sure.
Okay, so it's known that A and B are positive angles, and we have 2 facts. The important thing to note is that we have one for angle A and then a separate triangle for angle B. But our job is to find the value of sine of A plus B. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take a look at my formula sheet. And this is the link that I sent you. And I'm going to look for the one that has sine plus the two angles. So on our paper, it's sine of U plus V. Well, that relationship is sine of A times cosine of B plus cosine of A times sine of B. And if you were in the classroom, you would see me staring right at my sheet. I don't have that memorized, and I don't expect you guys to either. But the question now is, okay, what do we know? Well, I know the sine of A, cosine of A. So I know that portion already. I also know the sine of B. What I don't know is the cosine of B and the sine of A. So I have to do a little bit of work to solve those. And it all stems from the warm-up we just talked about. I would draw a right triangle just like Mr. Dwyer showed you. And we have angle A. So in this case, sometimes it's theta, sometimes it's A, sometimes it's U, sometimes it's B. It doesn't really matter. But that just tells us that's our angle. And I know that cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse. And then your job is to do Pythagorean Theorem and find the missing side. You do not have to show this work. I would encourage you to do this part in your calculator and just go ahead and do it. And sometimes it's a friendly triple that if you remember it, you can just write down the answer. But in this case, it's not super friendly. Actually, it is kind of friendly. I end up with skipping some steps. If I take the square root of, I believe that's 40. The square root of 1600, we get the missing side length is 40. Well, from that, now I know angle A, and I can find sine. Because what is sine? Sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So, I'm going to replace sine with the opposite over the hypotenuse. And then the only thing I have left to find is cosine of B. Otherwise, I know all four pieces. So, again, more side work. I might erase that Pythagorean Theorem piece. And now, I'm going to draw a different triangle, but now we're focusing on B. Now you have to be careful, because this is the sine of B, and sine is the opposite over the hypotenuse. So you're going to do that same work. Pythagorean Theorem. And if you do that, you're going to get the missing answer right here. So what I would do is do 61 equals 11 squared, and then you guys can do that work, and you'll end up with 60. So, again, I'm assuming you guys can do the Pythagorean Theorem, but now I can find cosine of B, because here's angle B, and cosine is the adjacent over the hypotenuse, so that is 60 over 61. And then we take the information that we already were given, and then we solve. And to be honest, that's how we're going to do everything today. Is if you can do these two skills just by finding the missing ratios, basically if you can do the warm-up that we talked about today, then it's just identifying which formula to use and solving. Now, the one thing I will throw caution at is you can't use decimals. So delta math, if you plug this into your calculator and you get decimals, you're going to get wrong answers. So Ms. Dwyer was showing you how to use delta math, the delta math calculator. I will try to do that as well. I don't think I can So I got 40 over 41 and 60 over 61. So if you go to your calculator up here and got 40 divided by 41, and then you do have to push over times, I already forgot, 60 over 61. Doesn't work so well at my computer. Now notice, I get a decimal answer. I can't take this decimal answer, so I have to turn that back into a fraction. If you go to function fraction, it will tell you what that answer is. So 2400 over 2501. And then it's taken me a lot longer to do this. I don't want to waste your time. So I'm just going to do this with my calculator, going back to turning items into full fractions and then adding those together. And I believe Delta Math always asks for it in simplest form. So what you got to do then is you got to check to see, can that be reduced? And hopefully you know how to do that on your calculator. If it can't be reduced, then you're done. So nothing super crazy there, other than you got to have that formula sheet available and know how to find the missing pieces. Okay, I'm going to show you one more. By the way, so these are the sum and differences. This is the formulas that were given to you on that link. I'm going to post this in Schoology as well as a separate link, just so you can access it. And then we also talked about the double angle formulas. So we're going to do one more problem today involving the double angle formula. And actually we might do two if we have time. But we're going to do this one right here, just to make sure that you guys get everything you need from a problem like this. And you know what? I'm going to do a quick steal of something. Okay, so this is, oh, I didn't copy. Let's try this again. There we go. All right, this is the one that I anticipate some struggles on, just because it's not as clear as the other one. But what we need to do then is we have to take the given information. So I'm going to take the fact that I know cosine of theta is 9 over 41, and I have to find cosine of 2 theta. Well, okay, here's my formula, and it's right there on our formula sheet. Which cosine of 2u formula do I use? Well, look at what's given. You have a cosine of theta, and if you can use just the cosine of theta without having to find any extra pieces, you want to make that choice as the formula to use. That's the easiest formula and the fastest way to solve this problem. So that's my advice for you guys, is, okay, we know the given fact, and we know that one way to do the double angle of cosine is to use this formula. And now remember, instead of u, we can call this u, so instead of theta, we can just call it cosine of u. So what does that mean? Well, the first thing is just remembering what that squared is. That squared value can come out. And then all we're going to do is take and replace exactly what cosine of u is equal to. Okay, so what is cosine of u? It's 9 over 41. And to be honest, the only thing you really need to be good at here, because you have the formulas, is you need to be good at order of operations. You remember when you square a fraction, you square the top and square the bottom. So when I square this, I square the 9 and the 41. So I get 81 over 41 squared. And then we're going to subtract 1. And to be honest, I would use my calculator here fully. I wouldn't, these are bigger numbers, so I wouldn't really do too much in my head. But do remember, when you actually times 81 over 681 times 2, that's kind of like 2 over 1, and then you write the answer, and then subtract 1. And to be honest, I would, again, use my calculator here, turn things back into a fraction. If you don't know how to use your calculator well, that's something that we should talk about in my office hours. But that's what the cosine of 2u is going to equal. Okay, so I don't think you guys needed to take a ton of notes. I think watching the video and just seeing a handful of examples done could really make this helpful to you. And we actually have time to do one more. So I want to talk about the tangent formula quickly. And this will be the last one for today. So they give us the information of cosine is 4 over 18, square root of 18. They want us to find tangent of 2 theta. So I'm going to go to my formula sheet, and I'm going to look up what is the tangent of 2 theta. Now the sheet says 2u, but I'm just going to replace the u with tangent. And there's my formula. Now, we don't have tangent, we've got cosine. So I have to do some side work here first, and I have to find the fact that we know cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. We can set up the triangle just like we did before. And we can find the opposite, because that's the true thing we need. We need the opposite, because then if I have the opposite, I know that tangent is opposite over adjacent. So we know the adjacent is 4, but what is that opposite? And the only way to do that is Pythagorean Theorem. So again, I don't want to maximize our time here. I'm going to do Pythagorean Theorem really quick and just find this without showing work. And we end up with the square root of 2, I believe. 18, 16, yeah. So, that's all you need, this one fact that you had to discover, and now you can plug that in tangent in both spots. So, what's the last piece? Remember here, this tangent squared is really something squared, and then what goes inside the parentheses is the tangent ratio, which is the square root of 2 over the square root, or the square root of 2 over 4. And then everything else is just reducing. To be honest, I would grab my calculator, but if we're going to do this showing all the correct steps, first part I would do is simplify the numerator, which 2 is 2 over 1, and then that reduces out. So I know my top part is 2 squared to 2 up top, and then the bottom part, I'm going to do, kind of running out of room here, but I have 1 minus 2 square root of 2 squared, which is 2. The square root of 4 squared is 16. And then I've got 1. Now, when I do this on the bottom, 1 is better off known as 16 over 16. And then I can subtract that. So So we get 14/16, which if we divide that by 2, is 7/8. So you can kind of see what the top and the bottom turn into. This I would think of as all side work here. That's all side work. And then we've got to talk about, well, a fraction divided by a fraction. Whenever we divide by a fraction, we actually multiply by the reciprocal. So I flip the 7/8, and then I can take out a factor of 2, so I get 4 square root of 2 over 7. And that's my final answer. That's what the tangent of 2 theta is equal to. So that's what we got today. It's really using this sheet that I sent in the link. And if you have all the formulas, please keep this handy. Either save it on your desktop. If you have the ability to print it out, you can. When you come into Tartan, I have a printout here for you. You can pick one up if you'd like. All right, so what we got then tonight is our homework on Delta Math. Remember, you cannot access this homework until you switch over to the 3rd trimester Delta Math piece. So that's all I got today.